Stay a while and listen.
Hello and welcome to RH Gaming's Stay a While and Listen. This is the first installment in the series, guys, and we're very excited. So bear with us today as we kind of look at our notes and make sure that we cover all the topics that we want here. In the beginning, we are going to give you guys a little bit of an introduction of ourselves, the three individuals starting the podcast here. So I will kick it off. I am Genotype, part of RH Gaming, and go ahead and introduce yourself, guys.
My name is Drew Tax. I am also part of RH Gaming. Been a gamer for about 15 or 16 years. Started with Blizzard as well, and we'll go over to drama at that point.
Guys, I'm Drama, like Tex just said. I've been playing games ever since I could hold a controller. So that's it for me.
Yeah, all right, I'll give you guys a little bit more. I just kind of gave you my name and passed it over. Like I said, I'm Genotype. I am the general manager here at RH Gaming, the content providers for you guys here today. And we have a great time over here. You know, I've always liked to take a proactive approach with communities, helping to start them up, helping to do formation, guild formation, professional gaming, the whole nine yards. Yeah, just like Drama said, I was had a controller in my hands from an early age. Always was trying to find out the best game, what I enjoyed the most. Got a little bit semi-professional with Quake 3, and then really focused on esports management, which I think is great. There's been a lot of development with esports. It's getting bigger. There's more exposure out there, and it's just generally on the rise. So I'm going to continue that push, and RH Gaming is going to continue that push alongside of it, and we hope to do great things in the future. So, are you guys ready to kick off Night of Diablo 3 here, our first installment of Deckard Cain's Stay a While and Listen. Great name, by the way, Drew Tax. Gotta love the name.
Well, obviously one of the things that we're hoping that people will do is to find what we talk about interesting and, to go through all the lore and things like that, over the future podcasts that we do. Tonight's podcast will obviously be a brief overview of, the clan that we join and the initiatives that we've got, looking at what other clans are doing and things like that will be a future episode, what's being done in the podcast, and we're going to look at, what happened in D2, what a big progression that was for the gaming industry, and our own personal experiences, etc. I don't know what the other guys think of it, but Diablo 2 for me was a groundbreaking game in the fact that it was the first real game that had skill trees and things like that. But did you guys know that it was the first major game to push skill trees?
Yeah, I did know that, and actually what Diablo 2 was for me was it was the first game that really pulled me in and gave me a sense of accomplishment from a video game. I didn't feel like I was grinding. The storyline was a lot of fun, and it was funny because me and my brother had to share an account, so we would fight every day about who was going to get to play just because of how much fun it was to be in that world, in that environment.
No, absolutely, yeah. The sense of accomplishment, with Diablo 2 was great because, in the beginning, just like I think we're going to see with Diablo 3, and we will talk about that later. Tonight's focus is going to be on, transition from our Diablo 2 experiences, like how we felt, as younger men going through the game, and then now a little bit older, kind of looking back on it, retrospective, and saying, like what was right and what's getting changed fundamentally. I had a great time, felt very accomplished with the game. Just because it was a great progression, the levels of difficulty. So when you pick up the game, you don't want to get your ass kicked, basically. You want to go through, you want to learn it, you want to see the demons, kind of get a taste of it, get out there. And that's what they really did with normal. They allowed you to ease yourself into the gameplay so that you got the storyline, you got all the cool things up front, and then you got to really perfect your character, whether you wanted to do PvP and things like that. You really got to focus on the nitty gritty of the game rather than having to really, just have monotony. You got to kind of explore the world of Sanctuary and what you wanted to do personally with your character. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, well, let's look at what Blizzard's done over the years. I mean, you've got every game that they've ever released has been an envelope pushing game. I mean, yes, okay, there's the whole argument of Blizzard North that, it was a different company and that sort of thing. But Diablo 1 was the first game to take RPG games out of turn-based. Like a turn-based situation where you hit him, roll the dice, and then, it goes from there kind of thing. That, it was the first, if you click faster than that monster can hit you, you're going to kill it type game. And, with every single game they've ever done, they've always pushed that envelope. And with D2 for me, coming from Africa, where I'm originally from, the first ever Blizzard game I played was actually Lost Vikings. So, then to progress through onto D2 and things like that, it was just a groundbreaking experience. I mean, to have that much depth in a game where you actually got to see the content with each difficulty and, instead of having, I can't remember the name of, the guys, what's it called? When you learn a game right at the beginning, you know what I'm talking about anyway.
Learning curve?
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
the learning curve. Instead of having like a very steep learning curve like what some games have where you play a tutorial for 5 minutes and then you're expected to be an expert, Blizzard kind of lulls you into this false sense of security that, I'm
Right.
going to be able to do this easily, and then suddenly you're up against something that's just going to wipe the floor with you. It's absolutely fantastic.
Well, and the other thing that they do along the same lines that's great with that is they not only make it easy to learn and easy to pick up, but they give you the chance to see everything at a lower level difficulty. And then let's say, all right, so now I'm done with normal, I'm going to move up to nightmare. If you get to nightmare and you run headlong into something and you feel like you've hit a brick wall, you can go back down to a lower level of content, maybe find some new gear, or if you just don't want to have that feeling again, you can continue to grind that lower level of content and still be getting new things, still running into content that you'd see in later game or later gameplay. Things like that I think makes having sets of difficulty with the entire game just a great gaming, choice.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
no, some of the best experiences too, with friends. This was personally, I was introduced to this by my friends, and they were like, check this out, man. We're running through. You get items, and you go through the dungeons and stuff, and that's basically how I was exposed to it. And I was like, whoa, this is pretty interesting. It was so dynamic to me at a young age that I kind of became overwhelmed with excitement because there was so many avenues to explore, and I liked that. I like that type of dynamic gameplay where you get to choose your path. Kind of unfold it through item gathering and grinding and things like that too. But just exploring and really developing your personal character to your preferences, and that was really interesting to me at a young age. And because Diablo was a pioneer in that, that's where I started with it, and really, the storyline, everything combined, just really set the scene for me, and that was awesome. So
yeah,
that's kind of where I was introduced.
yeah, definitely. And they were also, although I'm probably going to get trolled for this, but when you look at the way that Diablo 2 is actually laid out and things like that, it's essentially almost, although the progression of the game is very linear in the fact that you need to kill Andariel before you can move east and things like that. The actual zones are open, open plan. You can go wherever you want to go within those zones. You can, if you want to head west, you can head west, and you'll find randomized dungeons. And every single time that you play through it, it is different. There's never the same things. You never run into this mob here, this monster here, and this monster there. You need to look for things, and that's fantastic, especially with the way that what they've done with that is to make the game essentially quite easy to, what we were talking about earlier, quite easy to play, but really difficult to master.
Yeah, well, and
Absolutely.
that's definitely one of the things that carries over to D3 from D2, and even more so with all the random events that they added into D3. If you don't explore the entirety of, all of the areas to collect the crown, you might not find Matriarch's bones, or you might not find the Jar of Souls. So until you know that they're there, there's no reason to not explore.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you've also got the aspect that, one of the things I liked about Diablo 2 was the skill trees, but I like what they've done and I like the fact that they've pulled them out because one of the things I didn't like about the skill trees was the fact that, if for example, I loved in Lord of Destruction, the expansion pack, I loved the fact that you had the druid and I loved the druid, but I died a lot with the druid because he wasn't good at certain things for me. And, I had a Hammerden. Those of you who are very experienced with Diablo 2 will know exactly what I'm talking about, that I could just cream everything with. So, I didn't like the fact that you got to a certain difficulty, you hit a brick wall and you couldn't get any further. You needed to then roll a completely new character. And I like the fact that in Diablo 3, what they've done is they've taken that whole system out and you can change skills almost on the fly. That's not working for me. Let me take a step back. We'll portal to town and fix it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the fundamental changes we are going to see here with D3. Going through the game, hitting the brick wall, and the consolidation of the builds. You join a server and you basically see, all the characters. Your top characters looked alike, no matter what you're going to do. They amassed the best items, and they had consolidated build structure. A Hammerden's gonna maximize all those stat points to where they need to be most efficiently. Get the most efficient gear the effective gear that he can use, and then just trounce the game. And that's what we saw. We saw all the Hammerdens consolidating. The magic find sources consolidating, things like that. So it was a very linear game in the aspect of once you reached, that point on the learning curve, that there really wasn't any further to go other than, conducting like intense mathematical calculations that were almost kind of futile at a certain point. But there just became a point where you're just like, okay, I'm really good at this game. I want some more, interaction. And like you said, you had a Hammerden that could cream it, and then you had some other ones like the Druid where you hit a brick wall. 100% agree with that, and that's the one thing I think they are fundamentally changing with Diablo 3 is they're allowing you to continue to, change and alter your character even at those pinnacle levels, of supplementation. So when you got your character like stored up with gear, he's good to go, and you're just like, oh man, I'm beasting, but you're either effectively bored with it or want to try out a new path. You can do that now with Diablo 3, with the rune system that they've implemented now that gets unlocked, with all the different changings and allocations that they've allowed you to mess with the character now. We are seeing that, so that's great. And I'm looking forward to it personally because I like to be able to have a little bit more control over what I'm going to do with my character.
Well, yeah, that and with not just control, but it allows your style of play to fit into the entirety of the character. You're going to be able to not say, well, shoot, I've only got one level 3 rune, but my group needs me with more power.
And that's going to carry over to PvP,
exactly.
That carrying your style over of play.
Well, I mean, for me, Diablo 2 was the first, true experience of PvP because, obviously we played on LAN servers and things like that because the internet where I was from wasn't really all that fantastic. So we played on LAN servers and things like that. So we would fight each other outside of town and, guys would bet their lunch money and stuff like that. I'll beat your, my paladin will beat your druid kind of thing. So,
right.
There was that, but there was also the instance that, you had essentially what they call cookie cutter builds, where if you did that build, that was the best build and that was it. Yep. What I like about Diablo 3 and the change that they've made, and I mean, they only made this change recently, was the fact that they've now unlocked all the runes and everything for everybody. So there's now going to be that inherent balance, which I think will bring things like, you're heavily involved in esports and things like that. I think that that'll bring the esports community in because it's going to be short, it's going to be fast, it's going to be intense, and that's what esports people love. I mean, look at the growth of things like StarCraft 2, and those can turn into quite long games, but invariably I think the average is like a 7.5-minute game at master level, and things like that. So, for me, the inherent balance in the game just from the amount of builds possible. I think they said it was something like 2.7 billion builds are possible.
Wow.
And you add
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
items and stuff like that on there. It means that there's never going to be one particular build that overrules every other build. There is now not going to be a cookie cutter build, because there's going to be a class and a build that can overrule that build no matter what.
Yeah, they've really kind of branched away from that whole rock, paper, scissors, and now with even just this week with patch 14 coming out, we see all the changes that they've made to the items yet again. And, I think that they're getting to the point where they've got it. I mean, they've really got something here that's going to be special. It's going to make the community feel like, okay, this is what we've waited for. And
Yeah,
and I think it'll be phenomenal.
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm quite happy with the fact that, I don't know about you guys, but I'm quite happy with the fact that they've actually delayed the PvP aspect of things, because I think that if they'd released PvP at point go, guys would be level 1, they'd get to like level 10 and try and PvP, and let's be honest, level 10 PvP, it's not going to be as balanced as endgame,
Right.
and there's going to be, we all know what the forums are like. There's going to be lots of crying and lots of shouting that it's not balanced, and all the rest of it, when the true PvP is going to be at level 60.
Well, I mean, and if
Yeah.
we look at what they're going from to what they're coming to in D2, you just went hostile. And from my understanding of what Blizzard had wanted from that was that nuance of you could be out in their world at any time and someone could come in and just potentially kill you, or there could be an argument or loot, and that's why they go hostile. But here we're looking at a more standardized, a better system, if you'd say, to really setting it up, and I think they meant it for more end game play. I don't think they meant two level 10s to try to go at it.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Yeah. The thing about that, PvP. I actually discussed this a lot. Like, if you guys are fans of our stream at RH Gaming Com, very big Diablo stream. I think we're actually just a little piece of information. We will get a little bit more into RH stuff too here. We were going to do that in the beginning, but we couldn't wait to get our hands on our D2 experiences. But if you are fans, I've talked about this a lot on that stream. The idea of what Drama was saying, the internal type of PvP where you feel it in the environment. You have the ability to basically go hostile at any time. So that kind of nuance is there. But then the separation to the arenas, and what you see between the two is a greater focus on player versus player with Diablo 3, hands down. Not only because of the tracking system, the matchmaking system, all the cool little, clothes and achievements that you're going to be able to gain, which is a general, theme in gaming overall.
It's
That
the Blizzard nuance to that
yeah, right.
achievement type gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, even COD, all those things, they're going that way. It's like, oh, you get a little flag and a badge on your shoulder. Good job, dude. Like, you're doing a good job. Keep getting achievements. That's society in general is headed that way, but we can get into that some other time. But at least they're putting in a focus, to create these arenas where you then test your abilities. I'm a very competitive player. Like I said earlier when we just kind of gave those brief introductions, I came from a very competitive FPS background, which is really cutthroat. It's like one-on-one, like you're like, who's better? And in Diablo, it was more just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to walk outside the Bloodmore here. Oh, hostile, like Blizzard or, like Meteor real quick all over the front of town. And it just was a little bit, not focused upon, and it was a little bit weird to kind of really try to get something special going with
Well,
the
then it
competition.
almost felt uncomfortable. I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but if I made a public game and someone joined my group, there was always that like feeling of, okay, are you gonna help me or?
Yeah, are you just gonna run out and like grief me after and just like come out with a bunch of traps and just wait until my body and keep killing? It's just there was so much variability and trolling and all that kind of stuff with PvP, so it never really excelled. It was more just an implement, into the game rather than a focus itself. And with Diablo 3, I'm really, really hoping to see if it doesn't get to an esport, that's fine. Subjective definitions of esport, whether it's, StarCraft 2 is the epitome of it because it's a very balanced game, competitions and things like that. But inevitably, and this is something to stress, we're going to see a competitive scene develop around Diablo 3 because of the nature of gamers. I want to be better than you. I want to be better at PvP than you to show that, I've put my time into this game and I'm a tenured player. And now that we have arenas and we have all these extra supportive features for that realm, what is to say that it won't just completely overshadow Diablo 2 PvP now that we have this focus? And, a lot of organizations and things like that, I hope, take advantage of it, and other guilds, because here at RH Gaming, I'm going to try to help as much as I can with that section, as pioneering, commentating for PvP, getting people in there, and like Drew Tech said, fast, explosive, like matches, that there's a lot going on, but at the same time, that level 60 PvP, hopefully there's so much variability in the builds, like you said, if you get beat because you think something is overpowered, there's always something you can twist up or change up or tweak a dial, twist a knob to basically come back to the arena and say, now I'm ready to go.
Well, and
So
I
that's what I'm
think the
thinking.
other thing I like so much about Diablo 3 PvP is it's going to be about, since everyone has the same skills, everyone has the same chance to get the same gear, it's really going to come down to who's the better player. And for
I
me,
really hope it does.
that
Yeah.
is a blast. There's nothing more fun for me than to sit down and watch two of the best face off with their knowledge of the game.
Yeah, and you've also got the aspect that they've even made it, they've gone that extra step to make it even, that much more strategic as well, because there's health globes that drop and, things like that. So, do I use the health globe now to buff up my team, or do I use it to make sure that they can't get it because we're at full, and, that kind of thing. And, because for me in Diablo 2, like you were saying, Drama, you've got that aspect of somebody joins your group, are they going to EP me, are they going to kill me? So when you're wanting to fight someone outside of town, you're not wearing that sword of uberness and, stuff like that, because if you die, they may take the sword. Whereas now, because it's in a set arena, it's in a set environment, you're not dropping the sword, you're not losing this, you're not losing gear and stuff like that. So you have that element of step back, fix the problem, go straight back in, like you guys are saying.
Yeah, that whole focus, that nervous feeling. I mean, we all had that. I mean, just going back on it, I mean, did either of you guys ever get scammed in Diablo?
Yeah,
Like
all the
straight up?
time.
Yes, exactly.
I
And
mean, I was a
learned my
kid. I
lesson.
was like 10, and I
Yeah,
was sitting there going, "Oh, sweet, you're gonna help me build this item."
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
all these like, elaborate stories of like, I'll just give you guys an example. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I want to join a clan, make some friends, and then that's kind of where, like my entire sense of, wanting the game like in a communal aspect. I was like, oh yeah, of course I do. That's sweet. Make some buddies outside, and they're like, yeah, sign up on this website, click this button and put your name in. So I put my name in. I'm clicking the button, and it's he's like, yeah, make sure your trade window's up so we can. I don't know. He just said it had to work, and I was just so gullible at the time. I'm like, oh yeah, that's got to be how it works, right? It's a legit website, and mind you, it was a program that made my mouse pick up whatever was on my screen and click. So it was a program that basically made your mouse move and click a bunch of times. So it started dropping all my gear like on the ground, and I'm like sitting in there trying to overpower the mouse program. It's not working. Like my Arcane Valor at the time, like bugged Arcane Valor. This is way back in the day. That kind of stuff just starts hitting the ground. These guys are eating it up. All three of them are like fighting over who's going to get my items they're dropping. And I'm just like, oh,
That's the
So,
worst.
like going back to the, a little sidetrack there, but going back to that, everybody's been nervous in the game, because of that. Oh, am I going to drop it? Is somebody going to scam me? Oh, is that the right price? And when you're doing PvP, it's like you're hotkeying so much. If you were a, intense PvPer, I mean, you got the guys that walked out there and they basically just moved and they had to click every skill and then click the arena, and you could just tell because their skills were coming out slow and they
Yeah.
sucked basically. But the people that were really active, you're like, you don't want to hit a wrong key or a wrong button and basically drop a perfect Mara amulet or something ridiculous on the ground and just be like, oh, well, that goes. Traded for that for about 3 weeks, tried to get that. And now it's on the ground. So with the arena, exactly like Drew Tack said, that nervousness is no longer an element in the game. You're more focused on excelling, at your abilities as a player. Like, and if that happens, just like I feel the same way, you know, it's going to be amazing because people are going to be focusing more on how do I become a better player to control the character rather than how much time can I spend grinding these items to not only look cool but also be effectively overpowered. So I hope we do see that.
Yeah, and you also got that thing where guys would make a portal and say, "Join my game. I really need some help." And they would have a portal there, and you would go through the portal to go and help them, and they would be in Inferno difficulty or something like that.
Right.
And you would zoom in, and you'd be at Diablo, and you'd know any of the gear, nowhere near anything. He
Yep.
kills you, you die. And it's a hardcore character, for example.
Yep.
So that whole element is essentially gone as well, which is fantastic. And one of the things that you're talking about where you get scammed and stuff like that, that's another big change that Blizzard have made. They've brought in the real money auction house, and they've brought in the gold auction house and stuff like
Yep.
that. I mean, what they're essentially doing there is, the gold farming industry was a $6 billion industry last year. And that's for all the games, not just Diablo 2, obviously. So they're essentially taking away, because they reckon that 25% of the people that did, deals through these third-party websites and things like that actually got what they paid for and didn't get scammed. 25%. So if you take 100,000 people, 75,000 people got scammed. So, yes, there's a lot of, people that aren't happy about the real money auction house and stuff like that. But I'm going to make my prediction right now, put my cards on the table. I think Diablo 3 is going to be the WoW killer.
And that's an interesting way of putting it. And aside from it possibly killing World of Warcraft, I don't see any reason why we can't see a huge community following this like StarCraft has, or any of the major releases in the last 2 years. I mean, this for me is going to bring the people who are in my age group back to gaming. I mean, if you had
Exactly.
told
I
me
had this talk with my
tomorrow
buddy.
that the Diablo 3 was coming out, and I would be like, finally! I can't tell you how ready I am for that. It'd make me pick up a game again.
Yes, strategically, the nostalgia is amazing the way they use it. They get, without trying, the exposure they got with Diablo 2 and, the base of support they built with that game, for how long it lasted, how many people had friendships over the game or found buddies or played with their, neighbor or whatever gaming memory you have. I've talked to so many people that are like, Diablo 3, oh yeah, I played that. That was awesome. No matter what, demographic they are or who they are, almost everybody that gamed that I personally know is like, oh yeah, Diablo 3. It maintained its price in stores for what, like 7 years
Yeah,
or something like that?
just about that.
Something
Yeah.
insane. Yeah, so it's one of those games where people have heard of it or played it and had a good experience like communally with somebody else and teamed up and went through the world of Sanctuary and just had an overall great time. And because of that, you're going to get that retention rate over a 10-year span. 10-year retention rate to bring people back to video gaming. That is amazing. And like you said, I'm in the same boat. And there's so many like us. And then you take that group and then you apply the group of all the kids that are wanting this type of video game, this type of like, really dark and
Because their parents have talked about it, like.
yeah, right. It's like, oh, I played Diablo. It's like, oh, you played that? Let me play that. Exactly. Either that, or they want this like really dark and scary type of title that includes the item hunting. Kids like items and achievements and things like that. So that's a big selling point. But we're gonna see a whole new wave of Diablo. What do you call? What would you call them?
Diabloites, Diabloians.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Diabloites making their ways up through the ranks. Unfortunately, they came in at 3. They don't get to experience the finer things like we all have. But I think we're going to see a great playing field. There's so much hype about the game, negative, positive, whatever have you. It's hype from I'm personally a marketer, and from a marketer's perspective, it's good hype so far. It hasn't gone too overboard. They got kind of close with the release date, but the camaraderie and the aggravation and the overall just excitement that comes from both of those areas is going to make this title, a huge release, and I am gearing up and getting ready to go.
As someone that works for a broadcaster, I know what you mean about the hype for the game, but the reason why it nearly tipped the balance to bad hype was because of the passion that the people that have been following this game for 10 years have
Yep.
been, have got. The following from Diablo 2 is absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, you've got the aspect that these people have waited because, I mean, it was announced, what, 4 or 5 years ago, Diablo
Yep.
3 was physically announced. So, I understand where they're coming from. I've never waited outside a shop and a midnight release, but for Diablo 3, I'm going to do that. So,
I'll be right
it's a,
there, dude.
yeah,
I'll
different
text you and
sides
be
of the
like,
world.
yo.
Yeah,
I was gonna
exactly,
say I'll be
exactly.
here at my computer where it will be downloaded.
Yeah,
I'll
no, but
actually want to wait in line.
uh, I have the unfortunate pleasure of living in a part of the world where they won't actually, they'll have midnight releases, but we don't have like a midnight release party or anything. So,
You're
the
having our
one,
release party
I was gonna say yeah,
yeah,
we'll
well,
have ours.
at RH
done at
Gaming.
RH, yeah, definitely. But the other thing that we're doing at RH, obviously, is the race, which I'm really, really looking forward to.
Yes,
The first,
I am pumped for that.
Yes, let's talk about that a little bit. Actually, let's talk a little bit more about. We were supposed to do this in the beginning, like I said, but we did get a little bit
Sidetracked,
excited
excited.
and went right into our D2 experiences. As you guys can probably all understand, you can't wait to just talk about all your D2 experiences. And actually, we can get to a little bit more of that, and then we will transition into a little bit more in depth at D3 before we do end it up. But right now, talking about the race that we're having, I think it's a good period to talk a little bit more about what we're going to do with our podcast, what we're doing at RH Gaming, and then we'll pick it right back up. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the race, guys, that we are going to
well,
be doing.
speaking from one of the European races, if that's what you want to call us, I am
You mean the
going to
team
be
that's
heading.
gonna come in second?
No,
Right.
no, 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 no. There's no second place for Europe. But what's going to happen basically is about a month ago, on the live stream that we do at RH, there was a gauntlet thrown down by myself because the American guys were saying, "Oh, we're so much better than the European guys." So I said, "Okay, well, let's race. Who's going to be first to get to the end of Inferno?" And so
Obviously,
from that, it's developed up that there's going to be like 3 American teams and there's 3 or 4 European teams, and we're going to race,
And then
which is
Canada
phenomenal.
apparently yesterday
Yeah,
decided
yeah,
that
Canada just
being part
formed
of
a
the
team.
U.S. team wasn't cool enough, so they have their
Yeah.
own team now.
Yep. There's just RH is so global and it's been expanding so fast. It's just amazing. It's one of the most global and most tight knit, like mature communities that I have ever fortunately been able to be a part of. So
And really,
this is great.
if you are looking for somewhere to come and hang out, I've only been a part of RH for about a month and a half now, and it's probably the best community I've ever been a part of. There are people on TeamSpeak all the time. There are people streaming all the time, and it's just constant fun. And if you think that Diablo 3 is going to come out and you're going to have to play by yourself or you're going to have to play with pugs, people you don't know, come and join us. I mean, you can apply, and it really is a good time, and it really is a chance to play with some people who are really really excited about the game.
yeah, and I mean the entry requirements for RH are just be a nice person, play
Yeah,
nicely with others. That's it.
yeah. Let's
But
sign
that
up.
that brings me to one of the nicest things that I've heard about RH gaming. There's a lot of people out there that have got concerns about the auction house and things like that. So at RH, what we've done is we've essentially said, right, okay, so people have got concerns. We don't really want to spend real money, in the beginning especially. So we'll have an RH bank. So what the RH bank will do is I find the axe of Ubernus, but I'm playing on a witch doctor. Um, we'll deposit the axe of Ubernus into the bank, and that gives me, say, 100 points. That then the, dole drops of Ubernus, and that gets deposited, and that's worth 100 points. I can then withdraw that. So you only get out of it what you actually physically put in, and that's fantastic. The community involvement is what's kept me at RH, and that was one of the biggest things that I've liked about it.
I mean, yeah, that's what it is, guys. We are community focused. We do a ton of different things. Just to go over a couple, we're gonna have a big Diablo 3 release party. Events, giveaways, the whole 9 yards. This is only the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we're starting up this podcast tonight. It's gonna be a little bit shaky because we're getting putting our boots on, getting ready to go. But it will get more and more organized and more interactive over time. And there's just gonna be so many more different things that develop here. Our stream gained so much notoriety so fast just because of all the help that we got globally between all of our members. People appreciate the resources we provide. All the donations we get go back into the effort to give tournaments and giveaways. And, it's just overall a bunch of people helping out and having fun and also trying to, better themselves at the game they play. So, we do have the large community and clan, but again, we will have, a top tier of PvPers that represent the RH name in high-level tournaments and things like that, like we do with StarCraft 2. I mean, it's amazing to say that we, as a community, sent a couple of our professional StarCraft 2 players to tournaments, and one being, top tier, sent him to the World Championships in Korea at IESF, as well as the Electronic Sports World Cup in France this past year. So, there's just the possibilities are endless, and anybody, if you're listening to this podcast right now and you think, well, I'm not a professional gamer, or I've had no experience in esport development or anything like that, no, it does not matter. If you have ambition, RH is a gateway to excel at it and to open up opportunity. And that's why you should, stop by and check it out. So
or maybe
let's
stay a while and listen.
Or stay a while and listen. So hopefully they're still listening. So we are going to tell you what we will be doing with our Diablo 3 podcast here a little bit. Like we said in the beginning, we're going to have topics, that overview what's going to go on each time and what we're going to talk about. So we'll have points of discussion, but, most of your content is going to be us just kind of talking with each other, talking to you guys, kind of going back and forth between the perspectives. We are playing a little bit more as informative police tonight, kind of giving you guys some information, telling you about our experiences with D2, and transitioning into D3 a little bit and kind of giving you, the perspectives from both ends on what we thought is good, how we felt about it, and moving into the future. So we thought that would be a good, starting point. And each week, you guys will get an update of a D3 podcast, as well as a StarCraft 2 podcast. We'll be doing those as well. Different individuals will be doing those. And we take any requests, anything like that you guys want to have us talk about, new information. We will, take that all in and try to provide you with what you want to hear. So other than that, I think that was a good little brief overview of what's going down. You guys have anything to add?
Nah, I think that was good.
Yeah.
All right. So we had to add that in there. We were going to do that in the beginning, but there it is. And I guess we could pick right back up with going, transitioning from D2 to D3 and the fundamental changes that we are going to see. So as a recap, what are some of the main things that we did discuss so far, just to jog my memory a little bit?
The fact that they've dropped the skill trees and changed
Right.
it to, as you level up, you just unlock the skills and the runes.
Yeah, that's been a huge change. We also talked about getting scammed and how the auction house, and we didn't touch on it, but we probably should, about how no offline gameplay is going to affect the world of Sanctuary without being able to, bug out the game anymore.
That's true.
And, obviously there's also, it's not really a change, but the fact that they've taken the law and they've deepened it, because they've changed some of the law going from D2 to D3. The fact that they've named the Dark Wanderer and things like that. So that's another fundamental change that's gone through.
What would you guys say that you've noticed has been the biggest change that you liked or didn't like in the difference between D2 and D3? Is there anything that's missing that you think is like, oh man, I wish this was still here? Or...
I guess, yeah, I guess I have a couple here. One of the things that comes up to me right off the bat when you said that I do like, and I wouldn't just know if this would be a sign of the times or, just better development, a more proactive, approach on their part to make the game this way, but the interactive environments and how you can strategically use the environment to help you progress through the game is something huge for me, because that allows another element to gameplay. So not only are you casting your skills and, in the PvE environment, obviously, and trying to transition from mob to mob, but now you're able to use the environment to your advantage. And I mean, with the beta right now, guys, since we're in beta, it's really hard to, calculate what we're going to see higher levels and how effective like a wall or a chandelier coming down is going to be. But I think like in Inferno, where we can't outlevel the content, big damage, blows like that, are going to become strategic in the fact that you have to implement them at the right time. There's going to be a lot of timing issues with them. Maybe, consolidating the mobs and, just giving them a big blow and things like that. So you're able to use your surroundings with the destructive environments and just in general, the aesthetic aspect of the destructive environments just makes you feel like you're actually just tearing it up. So that would be one of my favorite additions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I really love that. But for me, I don't think that they've gone far enough with that because I would love to have seen an element where it was even more strategic in the fact that, you hit that chandelier or you hit that wall and it falls on you, but also damages you. So,
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
so now you've got the
Interesting.
thing of, you're in with boss. I don't want to give any spoilers as to what I think the bosses are,
Oh, we
but
can say Skeleton King for now, because we
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
so you're in with the Skeleton King, and there's a wall that you can make fall on him. But if you're in the way, then it might kill you as well. You know what I mean. So you need to time it nicely so that you also get out the way, kind of thing. That would be phenomenal.
That would be pretty interesting. Or if the fact, I mean, again, this would require, who knows how, difficult it would be, but to code it to where the destructive environments, basically, you could destroy almost any wall and have it crumble and fall. Almost complete destruction. That would be very difficult, but also very interesting.
Well,
So
and I'd be
we'll have
afraid
to
the
see.
thing you'd run into is someone on the forums going, "This isn't structurally possible. You
Yeah,
couldn't
I know,
knock
right?
down every wall in the corridor."
Yeah.
It,
You just
it would
destroy the
be.
map so much that the map just goes away. You just take away every brick. You're like, it's just black.
Or you could just have a lazy day and go, look, I think the dungeon down, the doorway down is over there, so I'll just go through these walls.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think, yeah. I'm just going to go to the last level. Like, if you were playing D1, you had to just keep going down underneath the church.
Yep.
You just basically just keep casting, like, I don't know,
Teleport.
meteor straight
Yeah.
down into the ground and just keep blowing holes, and you just get down to Diablo in 2 seconds. Like, oh, okay. No, yeah, there would be a break-even point. Just maybe hyper-destructive. There you go. Very destructive. A little bit more so than it is. But um, I would say as far as a element that I would want to see, I would have to say if there was a way to allow almost like rating to go on with D3 from D2, where not rating like in WoW, but basically just big party playing, but not all the time. Certain dedicated places to where you could get a bunch of people together and just, you know, go into, I don't know, whether it's a special mod where there's just tons of bosses and things like that. Just something that could support intensive gameplay. Not to say that I don't like, the 4-person limit, because that keeps things a lot cleaner, a little bit more strategic, as you don't get to add in the fifth guy. You're like, who do I leave out from my party?
But do you
What
mean
does my party
kind of like
consist
a
of?
gauntlet almost, where they just keep throwing stuff at a
Yeah, or
decent sized party?
some type of mode where you can bring in more than 3 other friends. Because I know at RH Gaming, just for example, we have so many people that want to play with each other that it sometimes, three people, 3 friends is just not going to cut it. And you're going to leave somebody out. So I would just like an option to where, you could have like a larger party mod and just get more people involved. Because even though, like I said, I understand, you know, why the 4-person is a very viable type of way to do these type of games, especially with the the CPU requirements and constraints with the servers and things like that. But also, I really like sometimes just having a mass chaos in the server. Just a bunch of people just like, give me that item. No, give me that. Like, come over here. Oh, he just scammed me. Just like almost like a little, like a microcosm of a community going on with drama, like in a server. Just so much like stuff is going down that it's that kind of chaotic gameplay, that natural chaos
Yeah.
was very appealing to me. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I would say the biggest thing, or the biggest change that I like, is loot separation. I think that has been possibly one of the best things that they have come up with. You don't have to click on gold anymore, you can just run right over
Right.
it. And
Yep.
you're more focused on killing the boss as a group. Before it
Right.
was like, oh no, there's a barbarian in my group, he's right up on the boss. I'm going to have to stand right next to him and try to get the loot, but that could kill me. They took all of that out. And I think if you've got the support of a group that you're with, if something drops and you don't need it, you can drop it for your buddy. So there's still
Right.
that you can still trade with one another, but there's no fighting over what dropped.
Exactly. That
Yeah,
is
no, yeah, definitely. But
good
for me,
point.
I think, yeah, no, definitely. But I think for me, I like the aspect that one of the things that I always used to forget to do was to stand and hold Alt. I killed the Uber mob and then forgot to press Alt
And then you
and
didn't
didn't get
see
all the
any
loot.
of the loot. Yep.
Yep. Oh, I remember
You know,
that. But again, that's the kind of sometimes the chaos is good, but obviously, you know, you want a more clean, less trolly, more focused on your task at hand type of game. But I do have to admit, some of the drama that would ensue in Diablo 3 was a major element, or excuse me, Diablo 2 was a major element of it. Can you guys disagree with that? Like the almost inherent oh dude, who got the unique ring? And no one would say anything. And the
Yeah.
dude's just sitting with it. You're just like, yo, who got that? Like you have it in your stash. You're like, yeah, who got that? And everybody's just like, dude, come on, I really needed that. Or like a piece of armor that drops, like, you got like a young kid in there that's like 8 years old or something. And I don't know, let's say, I don't know, like
sells it to a vendor.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Fucking.
Arachnid's mesh drops, right? And he's just like, yo, I need that. And some other dude scooped it. He's like, no, I need that. I've been searching for that for like 8 months. Like my mom had to give me money and I couldn't find it to buy anywhere. And I like told my dad I needed it too, but he wouldn't get it for me. And you get like a life story over the item that just dropped or something. And I don't know. It's just that kind of stuff, which don't get me wrong, is definitely going to still be with Diablo
Mainly
3,
because
and I'm
you can
glad
just
for
link
that.
the item. You can be like, "Hey guys, look
Yeah.
what dropped." Link.
Yeah, and there's still going to be that drama, but D2, I think, it did have an overabundance of it, but at the same time, it was just enjoyable to see, like I said, little microcosms of chaos in each server because so much was going on. People were getting scammed, people were getting each other's items, people were hostiling each other. It was just overall a good mess.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
funny.
I quite like the fact that it's going to be online only now as well because of the fact that, it's going to be so much better for the game economy. Because remember the rune stones, the runes, the not the rune stone, the rune words, when you got
Yes,
Sod,
right.
when you got SOJ or Soj, whatever, however you want to say it, the stone of Jordan, um, everybody suddenly had one because of all the duping and everything else that was going on. Everybody realized that that was the ultimate one, and everybody, started duping them and duping that sword and duping the other thing. Now that's not going to be able to happen. So it's going to be so much better for the game economy because you find that sword, you could possibly be the only person in the world with that sword. And for me, that's a fundamental change, and it's going to be phenomenal as well because I mean, you get the items that you get, and you might be the only one with that item until you see another one.
Yeah. That's cool. That is too, being able to, have that uniqueness as long as you don't have an item that's like plus infinity to all the tributes and you just basically go in a server and you're like, oh, and I knight you and you just kill a guy and you just kind of walk around. You're like, oh, and you're dead too. So as long as that doesn't occur, which I don't think it's going to because, like we said, another big, major change that we've seen is a focus on all the characters to have, skills and abilities that attach to everyone's preference. Like, I don't know, from what you guys have seen with our streamers and everybody playing and things like that, I've noticed, I don't know what you guys have noticed, but I've noticed that people are like, what's your favorite character? And they're just like, oh, I don't know, Demon Hunter, Barbarian, Witch Doctor. Just everybody has a different character for a different reason. And I don't know if that's just because the game, is in beta and we haven't really gotten a chance to play with it yet. I hope that's not the case, but that's a good sign that people are attaching to different characters because they feel that's how they want to play the game, which is really cool because that allows you to have a better time at the game because you're playing what you enjoy rather than like, oh, I hate Hammerdins, but
They're
they're
the best
really
on the
good.
server. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
I have
I
to go
do
rush my
think
buddy.
I do
And
definitely think they did a great job of making 5 separate play styles. Nobody
right,
feels the same.
right.
Everyone, you've got the monk who's kind of your speedster mixed with your tank, mixed with your healer, and then you got the bard who's just like, all right, send everything at me right now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you'll really find a home in one of the characters, if not multiple characters. Like I know for me, I'm gonna have my teammate member, which will be my demon hunter. They're gonna be my high damage output, but you know, being an inferno by myself with that character doesn't seem viable.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to take a lot of hits. So for farming and things like that, my idea was making like a barbarian, because like I said, bring everything at me right now.
Yep.
So I think that they definitely did a great job of making 5 distinct and separate characters.
I would have to agree with that.
Yeah,
And
me too.
because we're not going to see build consolidation, it's just going to be an overall, open playing field for how you want to go about it.
Yep.
Bada bing, bada boom. So kudos Blizzard for really nailing it down. And I mean, we can complain as much as we want about the wait, but I would rather have a game that's going to come out and just be badass and be right than get a game and be like, oh wow, the barbarian and the monk basically serve the same purpose, and you're just like, I don't care. They didn't really focus on that, but they really took in the community input, things like that. If you remember early on in the beta, they had to revamp the Demon Hunter entirely. I was an early beta tester, so I saw that transition. The resource system was really screwed up. People all just basically said, I don't like the Demon Hunter. I don't want to play that. And that's how I felt, too, when I went through with it. They took that in, changed it. There's a ton of people out there now that love the Demon Hunter and want to play it. So, they're really responsive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, another fundamental change that they've done is the fact that bosses are still farmable, but the best loot isn't going to drop from the bosses. They're going to be these random champion packs that are going to drop all the best stuff. And I mean, I've seen that in the beta where I've got like a plus 2 damage unique ring and things like that dropping off of champion packs and unique monsters and stuff. That's going to be phenomenal because you don't know where they're going to spawn, so you have to play the game. So it's not as easily farmable anymore, which means that you're not going to get that high, say for example, you've got the Sword of Ubernus, which is the best sword, like a set sword.
The
or
Sword
something.
of Ubernus.
Yeah. It's the best word I can come up.
No, yeah,
Hey,
no,
it
it's
works
good,
well.
good.
Works well.
So you now need to find that champion pack and kill the champion pack. So it's not about, I'm going to stand outside the Skeleton King and I'm going to farm him 1,000 times today so that I can get the Sword of Ubernus. It doesn't drop from him.
Right. And I think randomization of the loot not only encourages people to play the entirety of the game, but it gives you a chance to do something else. I mean, they changed it so you can start on any quest in any difficulty at any time. You could be in the middle of doing something and be like, all right, I'm kind of bored of this. Let's move to something in Act 2. And pop right out of the game, change your quest. It's a simple pop-up. It says, are you sure? You'll lose your saved progress. You say yes, and you're on to something new. You're on to a different quest with just as much chance to get the Sword of Ubernus as killing the boss.
Right. Yeah, you gotta really just focus down, and your focus is in the right place. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to put the player's focus on the portions of the game that they feel are going to derive, the most benefit. It's pretty cumbersome to have to item grind for something for so many weeks, or maybe like when I killed Mephisto, I didn't even think I was at a boss fight. With
Yeah.
my sorceress, I
Yeah.
would basically just teleport down there and be like, where the hell is level 3 if you didn't have map pack? And you're teleporting down.
We're not encouraging map packs.
No encouraging hacks, guys. But dude, map pack was so prevalent. It's like you go into a server, dude's already at level 3. You're like, oh, this is so annoying. Like everybody had it. So,
Yep.
anyways, aside from all that stuff, and then you just basically get down to Mephisto, and you're like, okay, going over to the side here, boom, boom, boom. Okay, trap Mephisto. Okay, he's being dumb. He's standing in one spot, and you're like, okay, hit him a couple times.
Frozen
boom, go
orb,
over.
frozen orb, frozen orb.
Yeah, right. Get the loot, you go back up, and it's like, oh, I just did the last part of Act 3. And you're just like, oh, what? You're just like, that was a boss fight, and it felt and it felt farmy,
Yeah.
that's what it was. And they don't want that anymore. They want boss fights to be like, whoa, really, in your face, things coming at you, like with King Leoric. He's spawning his minions, he's teleporting on you. You can run like a little scaredy cat all the way the hell back to, the gate, and he's going to chase that person. I think that's pretty interesting, He's going to go for the person that's furthest away to keep it, keep you on your toes and to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
So hopefully we don't see that kind of like, oh, another boss fight. Hopefully every boss fight.
You're
Even
actually
though
going
it's
to have
gonna
to think
obviously
about it.
get
You're going to be like, okay,
repetitive.
are we sure we want to go fight Leoric right now?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I don't really care about that. It's because he's not going to drop, the sword of 1,000 truce or Ubernus, whatever you want to give the sword's title. but you're gonna get that just farming out in the the plains or the cold plains or the Bloodmoor. I
Anywhere
don't
in
know
the
about
world is sanctuary.
yeah, go down the Den and Evil and kill a little demon there, and you're just like, oh, boom, sort of many truth as you want. Like right there, you're like, sweet, I got it. I didn't have to go to Mephisto 567 times because I counted each run and got really mad at myself after doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and you've also got the aspect, I mean, that you're not going to be able to level like you did in Diablo 2. After a couple of years, guys would, do bail runs and things like that, and you would suddenly leap through the levels.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to do that anymore because they've nerfed that to shreds. So now you
Big
actually
time.
need to
Having
do
a
the
level
quests.
13 and a level 1 in the same game. I don't know if anyone has watched a stream where that is happening, but it is brutal for that level 1 character to get
yep.
anything.
Yeah, so no more like, hey, buddy, let's go. Unless you just have, well, hopefully we don't have that. Hopefully there's so much going on. Like you're getting attacked from all angles that level 1 is like, dude, I can't follow you. Like, I can't follow you through this level.
Well,
Sorry.
we've seen it. We've seen level 1s go to fight Leoric, and while it can be done, it takes a half hour. You have to know the fight to the T, and even then there's a chance you'll fail.
Booyah.
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely. But what was the boss, right, that killed you the best?
In
If
D2?
that in D2. If that
Oh.
sentence even makes
Well,
sense. I mean, what was the most
I would
epic
almost
fight
say
that you remember?
Duriel, the
Yeah, mine
clawy
too.
kind
Yeah.
of wormy guy, because whenever you went down there in a harder difficulty, he was always immune to something, and I would go down there with my Frost Sork, and anytime I was down there, he would always be immune to Frost, and I was like, well, guess I'm restarting this game,
Yeah.
because
He was
there
so
was
fast, too. It was just
Yeah.
really annoying.
there was no point.
He just comes around at you. I do have to say the worst attack, though, was Diablo's fire circle.
No,
I don't know the exact
completely
No,
name for it.
arguable.
no,
You've
no.
never been in the Maggot's lair with a
Yeah.
melee
With
character, because
Yeah.
the bugs
with
with
the
their
charge
lightning.
bolt.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Was
yeah,
unlucky.
that's pretty bad.
You're sitting there
Yeah.
spamming potions, doing everything you can to stay alive. Those were the worst.
Well, think about now,
you
and
know,
they're comparing Inferno to these levels that we've all faced, and they're just like, nah, Diablo 2 was easy. So I can't imagine what we're going to see with Inferno, and, I really hope that has a
But
ton of, replayability and replay value.
Oh yeah.
So I think it will, for
Do you
sure.
know what the thing that brings everybody back to the Diablo games and the World of Warcrafts and the Starcraft and that it's the rich world that they create, and I mean there's so many characters that everybody's taken such a huge liking to. Look at Diablo 2 and Diablo 1. The most prominent person that anyone knows about. I mean you don't even have to know all about Diablo and you know about Deckard Cain. You know what I mean?
Right.
The way that they've tied all the stories together and even the changes that they've made in the lore and that sort of thing. Just it's to make it make more sense. It's almost like they come up with a concept and then they don't think to themselves, oh right, okay, so how are we going to make this fit? They think of the actual lore first and then say, right, now how do we make a game from that kind of thing?
Right. Yeah, that's the right way to do it. How do we make a game from a crazy good story? Because no matter what you do in the game, you're going to want to follow it.
Exactly.
You're going to want to follow it. You're going to want to be like, I just killed, so-and-so. Let's not get in the... I mean, we could just use Diablo 2. I killed Diablo on my way, to Baal for this reason. You're like, that's what you want in a video game. When you have those kind of mindless games where it's just like, why? You don't feel as attached to it. And, all the nostalgia and all the things associated with the game are not only based around community and friendship, but just based around, your progression in the game and how you felt as you first, got into it and started getting into the story. Me, myself, I went through the game the first time. I don't know about you guys. Went through, didn't know what the hell happened. Knew I just killed a bunch of shit. And I'm just like, yo, I just knocked out all these demons. I'm badass, And then I got into the story, and then I appreciated it even more.
Yeah, I mean,
after I
for
looked
me,
back and played through it.
Diablo 2 is what taught me what the primevals were.
Right.
I mean,
There you go.
I mean, you always hear of, Diablo and all that stuff, but I had no idea there were brothers. That,
Yeah.
That he had Mephisto and Baal with him there as well. That, for me, this was a whole new idea that just kind of makes you sit back and go, wow, they really did think this through, and the whole story of the Soul Stones to be able to contain them in their power You know,
Right.
they really just make, and they always do. I mean, you see it in everything. It's a wonderful story.
It is, and I mean the way that they've then gone ahead and tied that through, and started talking about things like the Angeris Council, and given them a whole backstory. It just the whole way that the whole story ties together. I mean, they've even gone into the depth of making, the rogue from Diablo 1, Bloodraven.
Right. And you get that feel of, I don't know how to say it, but it's almost like every time they come up with an expansion or every time they come out with a new game, it's like the next chapter. And
Right.
if you've watched, there's a great video, and shame on me for plugging something that we didn't create, but someone actually went through and put Diablo 1, Diablo 2, and Diablo 3, the Tristrams. And you can just see, I mean, there are corpses in Diablo 2 of the people who died in Diablo. Like they
That
didn't,
amount of detail, yeah,
yeah,
it's
they
just
Yeah.
don't leave anything. Nothing is mentioned it's not mentioned if it has no purpose.
right.
So
You're reading a book and playing a video game. You're reading a
exactly.
book while playing a video game, and you don't have to have the part where you actually have to read. So
Exactly, because
that's
they
that's
added
the bad
audio
part.
books.
Yeah, I know, right? I can't read. I mean, well, no. Let me not say that. Let me not say that to all our viewers out there. I am physically capable of reading and reading very
He is
well,
completely
but I
literate.
just can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. I hate it.
Yeah,
I just
I
See,
it's like
certainly couldn't
me
sit
on the
down
other
with a
hand,
book.
I am a complete law buff. I love my
like
law. I
reading.
read all the books. I've got the Sin Wars.
More power to you, man.
I've got the Book of Cain. I've got all these things, and the one thing I will say is that I really like the Book of Cain. The artwork that they've put in there, some of it is absolutely phenomenal. Shame on me for plugging something, but if you've
Two
got the
shames
money,
on you
it's
guys.
20 US dollars. It's phenomenal. I mean, the artwork in it and everything else, it's just a great read. And if you love Diablo, if you love, the whole thing that they've created, read the book.
Read it. It's in a book. It's a reading rainbow. Hopefully, I don't get sued for playing to that jingle there a little bit. I don't think what is his name, Lamar Burton would be too happy to hear that if he is a Diablo fan.
That would be
That
funny. I'm
shows
not gonna lie.
shows
If we get an
crazy.
email at some point from him,
Well,
Yeah,
just to say, obviously, that the way that they've tied the whole law and everything together for me is one of the great parts of the story. I mean, it without giving spoilers and things like that. We'll start talking about the law maybe next week, in more depth and things like that. But for me, I think the biggest change that they've made and the greatest thing that they've done is the auction house. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, at the moment, obviously, the auction house, if you sell something, it's charging you one beta buck and 25, beta cents, and that will enable them to, create future content. It'll enable them to keep the servers running. It'll enable them to do all these things and to continue to give us the games that we love. And that for me is the most fundamental change, the biggest deal. And to be honest, I'd be very surprised if I don't see every other game going in a similar fashion.
I completely agree. And I always joke because for me, what Diablo is when I was a kid, my dad would unplug the router before he went to bed because I would stay up and play. So
oh,
I would sneak back in his room and plug it back in after they'd fallen asleep.
it's like you don't know how to do that. Oh, I'll just go plug it back in.
Exactly. So
I destroyed it
yeah,
by unplugging it.
I just I know we're gonna get that same feeling, and I can't
Oh
wait to
yeah.
continue talking with you guys about this stuff. And I hope that anybody who tunes in and listens is enjoying what we're talking about, because really it's gonna be a ton of fun for the next 10, 15 years until we get our next Diablo.
I think this is it, guys,
Let
isn't
me
it?
dream,
Diablo.
Gino. You let me dream.
All right. Diablo 4, guys. Think about it. If we don't get another installment, I'm pretty sure we are going to get the movie. That they did buy the name. Blizzard did buy the name Diablo for a movie. They actually sued a company that was going to come out with a title called Diablo. I forget.
Oh wow, I
Or there
didn't
was
hear
some type
that.
of lawsuit. Obviously, the World of Warcraft movie is already in production, already starting. So that's going to come out first. But I can just tell you, I think the Diablo story is very worthy of a movie. So I do hope we get to see that in the future. And just like Drama said, guys, we are going to wind down here a little bit. So today we did cover, some transitions from D2 to D3, some of the experiences we had with D2, how we got involved, a little bit of who we are, a little bit of RH gaming, kind of getting things started. We're just starting to have some commentary and stuff with you guys. So as we continue, it will only get better, and maybe even some giveaways over the podcast when we do go live and things like that. So stay tuned. And we have our stream, lots of things going on. RHGaming.com is the place to be. That's where we're from, and that's where we're going to continue to provide you guys with this Stay a While and Listen podcast. So hopefully you did just that, stayed a while and listened, and we will be back next week with more great and comprehensive coverage. So from all of us here at the podcast, take it easy and keep slaying.